Hello everyone, Sharpedo43 once again, bringing you all a brand new draft analysis. This one's going to be for the NGDL Season 4. Now NGDL stands for Nacho Gold Digger League and is a league that is currently run by my good friend the Killer Nacho. This league has had over 3 seasons, with this being the 4th, and I decided to finally return to Season 4 after an absence from Season 3 because at the time I was actually really packed with a bunch of leagues. I was in it for the first 2 seasons because, I mean, it was kind of my home league at the time, and it still is at this point, I guess you can say. And I was asked by the Killer Nacho once again if I wanted to join for Season 4, and I was just like, you know, after declining Season 3, I figure I definitely have to accept now, especially now that I'm actually low in leagues, because PMU was in fact the last league that I did, and that was the only one I was doing at the time. But now that that's done and dusted, now the opportunity comes for another league, and in this case it would be the NGDL. And not to mention, Snack himself offered me this opportunity to join once again, and I was just like, nice. So I asked for the application and I signed up, and here I am now. So the way NGDL works, okay, so NGDL is not, okay, so this league is very interesting. It's not like your typical draft league actually, where it's all most of the time tier based, because it's usually taking pages from GBA or NPA when it comes to the format of the draft and whatnot. So in this case, it's a point based draft system, obviously, like it uses the point based draft system, and it also has a very unique detail when it comes to the drafting, and that particular detail is the auction round, which is supposed to be round 1 kind of. What happens is that everybody gets, like, you know how when they set up the draft order, they have to kind of randomize all the coaches that are in the league, and from there people start to draft and whatnot. Okay, well, they kind of did that for the auction round, and I was actually the first pick, which was actually kind of cool, at least I thought. But after the auctions, or the auction round, they would actually have to redo the draft order based on how much money was bid. Now what I'm trying to say here is that the auction round is supposed to be this ability to pick a Pokemon after setting up the draft order. Obviously everybody has to pick a Pokemon and leave a minimum bid or something, or just leave a bid, honestly, and see if anybody wants to take it from you or something. And if no one wants to take it, then it's yours to keep. And if someone tries to outbid you, there is a second phase that allows you to outbid them and then keep them on for yourself, I believe, unless the coach that was trying to outbid you in the first place succeeds you, like as if he's ahead of you, like in the draft list, in the draft order, and if he tries to outbid you again, you won't get anything by the end of the second phase of the auction round, and that would pretty much give you leeway to pick whatever the heck you want in the normal drafting rounds, basically. I don't know if I made myself clear with how the auction round works, but yeah, I tried my best. It was a really complicated thing to understand for me, honestly. So, but yeah, that's what it was. And so I actually did have a pick during that auction phase, and it was Tampa Coco. I unfortunately decided to drop it and let whoever the outbidder was take it, just because there was something that I did have in mind, and you're gonna see right now with my first pick. But before we get into the picks, it should be noted that after the rotation, like after the second re-rotation of the draft order, it was going to be, the order of the draft was actually not necessarily like randomized. Instead, what happened was that it was gonna be like reordered based on who spent the most money while bidding. Yeah, while bidding, and if they got that mon and whatnot. And with that, they would actually determine the draft order, as opposed to randomizing it like it typically is. In fact, it was done so for the auction round. But from here, it's all based on who spent the most money during the bidding process. Because yeah, while this is a point-based league, it's kind of labeling all the points as money. So yeah, go figure. So in my case, I got nothing. So I didn't have to worry about anything, and I had the rest of the rounds to pick whatever the heck I want. And as you can see, in this league, you actually have 10 mons to use as opposed to 11, which I think is the typical amount of mons that you use in a draft league, with the most being I think 12. But yeah, in this league, it's actually having you use 10 mons. And in terms of points, like the amount of points we can use to pick all these 10 mons, we only have 130. Keep that in mind. $130 to use for 10 mons to pick, basically. And the values for the Pokemon, like the points on every Pokemon is all based on the Smogon tiers. So if they're Ubers, they're gonna be $70, and if they're OU mons, they're gonna be $35, and so on and so forth for every lower tier. The lower the tiers, the lower the money, obviously. So and in my case, so yeah, I got the last, actually not second to last pick. I got like the third to last pick because there was 2 other coaches who actually didn't get anything in the bidding process, and I don't even think they spent any money. They just picked something and somebody outbid them, and then they just didn't try to outbid. So they didn't even spend any money, basically. So because of that, I was kind of like the third to last, which really felt anticlimactic considering that for the auction round I actually got the first pick. So I was just like, damn, this auction round really did me dirty there, honestly. Crazy. But anyway, so with that said, with all the draft ordering and all the complications revolving around the auction round is out of the way now, let's get into the picks. So my first pick is basically the reason why I did not get anything in the auction round, because my first pick is actually going to be an Uber, which I already mentioned costs $70. And remember that we only have $130 to spend, and spending money on an Uber, which is $70, is already taking over half of the amount of money that you have. So imagine that. Imagine how the heck am I supposed to get 10 months out of this? Either way, without any more distractions, let's get into that first pick. The first pick that I'm gonna make is Marshadow. Marshadow is an Uber, at least according to Smogon. It's an Uber, and because of it, it's worth $70. This might be a debatable pick because this thing is, I don't know if it holds well against the likes of Arceus and the likes of Kyogre and all that, but it's Uber nonetheless, and as a result I got it. Now the reason why I got Marshadow was because Marshadow's relatively fast, has priority moves, is a ghost type, and has a lot of good coverage, honestly. And it's fast, and it just has good powerful hits, honestly. That's pretty much the reason why I got it, honestly. And I think it can handle some Ubers very well, just given the moves that it has and whatnot. It also has a pretty devastating attack in Spectral Thief, which if people try to be fancy and set up in my face, I can probably try to like Spectral Thief their stats and actually use them against them, basically make them think twice before they try setting up any fancy stuff on me. But I mean, I'm not the best battler either, honestly, so they can probably still get away with it, honestly. But this was just the reason why I picked Marshadow in the first place. So that's Marshadow for you. The second pick is going to be Milotic. Milotic is actually in the RU tier, therefore it's only $10 for me to use. And the reason why I got Milotic, even though I've used this mon in several other leagues, honestly, like the first season of NGDL, and then I think I used it in Valhalla League as well. I used it in DBL as well, and it always has done me good. The reason why I picked it was because it's a very typical wall with the good stuff such as reliable recovery. It has the ability to phase mons with Dragon Tail, has the ability to haze mons when they set up in your face and you got nothing to do to them. Basically, you can keep them from setting up, and you can just have them kill you without any boosts and whatnot. So yeah, that's a good thing. It also has the ability to not get toxic stalled to death by having refresh, so it has some good stuff on it. Its move pool is not the widest, but it definitely is effective that it kind of doesn't need to have a wide move pool. You know what they say, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, honestly. But yeah, so that's why I picked Milotic. Milotic was actually a pretty decent wall, and I figured that along with Marshadow, who is, I don't know if necessarily the bulkiest of mons, but it's good when you're trying to switch out of a potential attack such as a psychic type or a fairy type. Milotic can take those very well with its good special defense, honestly. So yeah, I just figured it was a decent wall to bring. Okay, but here comes the third pick now, and the third pick was actually, this one's actually a pick that I'm actually really 50-50 on. I actually don't know if I actually will have this mon for very much longer throughout the season, but I have it right now, and I gotta see what I can do with it while I have it, and see if it actually works out or not. But my third pick here is actually going to be Raichu, And the reason why I got it was because in this league you can supposedly use both forms of this mon, and which means you can use the Countonian version, which is this one that you see right here. You can also use the Alolan version. But there was this is where the whole wanting to change it came in. The idea to change it came in. Supposedly, in order to use both of these mons, like both the Alolan form and the regular version of Raichu, I have to actually announce it in a channel to actually that I'm gonna use whichever form I try to use, honestly, which I don't think is really good when it comes to trying to prepare for your opponents, because that kind of takes away from the unpredictability, which is kind of what this league has done with previous seasons, honestly. And the reason why they do this is because, I guess, because of the whole Raichu being untiered and Alolan Raichu being PU or something like that. That's why they kind of announce the forms and whatnot, which makes my fourth pick even more complicated of a pick, and is also another mon that I'm starting to kind of second guess myself. But before anything, let me explain why I picked Raichu in the first place. So I get to use both forms, which is cool. If we don't include the whole like announcing which form you're gonna use, it's still pretty good even if they know what version you're gonna use, because it does have some good utility. It has knockoff, it has priority moves like Fake Out and I think Quick Attack, and it can pivot basically, and it has an electrical immunity with the ability Lightning Rod. So, and the Alolan form it can be a psychic type too, and can get stab psychic moves and can, you know, set up a bunch of stuff. And I think it gets Shadow Wall. I could be wrong on that though when it's Alolan Raichu, but I don't know. Either way, it's still pretty decent, I feel. And again, I think it also has good speed, which is really, really good as well, because I could use some speed, because I think right now so far the fastest mon on my team is Marshadow. So yeah. So anyways, with all that said, yeah, Raichu it's fast and has some utility under its belt. It has knockoff as well, so if I want to threaten some stuff out, I can knock off predicting switches or something. But here's my fourth pick now, and it might surprise people when I say that I might actually try to trade this off, honestly, considering there's a lot to abuse with this next pick. So here's my fourth pick. Jeez, I can't talk, but you know, that's just me. My fourth pick is actually going to be the Mega Sharpedo. Now, the reason why I picked Mega Sharpedo is because, unlike in other leagues like PGL or DBL, where you can't actually abuse Speed Boost with regular Sharpedo and then Mega Evolve, in this league you actually can. Although I don't know how the whole announcing which form you're going to use of Sharpedo does that work, honestly, because I think Sharpedo, the regular Sharpedo, is BL, I think, like, or RUBL or some shit like that, which means it's in a very separate tier of its own. But Mega Sharpedo's UU still, apparently. So I don't know how the heck am I supposed to announce the forms here, because remember that Mega Sharpedo, if it's Mega Sharpedo, it's going to carry the Sharpedo Knight, obviously. So, but yeah, to avoid the confusion or the complications, because I'm really, really terrible at explaining these things, just know that the reason why I picked Mega Sharpedo was because, again, I just wanted to be abusing that speed boost, and I figured it can add another fast mon to my team, basically, with the abusing of speed boost. Honestly, I just have to make sure I don't get very telegraphed, obviously, with it. So, but yeah, I think Mega Sharpedo is pretty self-explanatory as to why I picked it. It's pretty decent and has very, very good attacks, especially with the strong jaw ability. So, and it does have it has respectable coverage at this point, honestly. Like back in the Gen 6 days, it didn't really have a lot of coverage for a lot of its weaknesses, but now it kind of does. So that's kind of why I figure it's pretty good. The only thing that kind of like turns me off though is that I do have two water types now, and one of them is like super frail, and that being Mega Sharpedo. So, and I have Raichu, which is also just a frail mon in general, honestly, that I'm starting to wonder if both of these mons were even a good idea to pick, honestly, just given their glass cannon status. And the only wall I have so far is my Lodic. But either way, I don't know. I have to actually practice these mons in a battle to actually find out if I actually think that'll work or not. And if not, then they're gonna be traded away, both Raichu and Mega Sharpedo. Which sounds very, very sad, because I actually do like Mega Sharpedo. It's just that I feel like it might not actually work out well for this team that I have right now so far. But what do I know? Either way, so I think I already mentioned why I got Mega Sharpedo, right? Speed boost, strong jaw. It's like, I think those are like the only reasons to even run Mega Sharpedo, honestly. But yeah, so my 5th pick here. Now this is actually a Pokemon I actually really like. It's Gardevoir. Now Gardevoir is a mon that's really powerful on the special side, which is something that I kind of need right now, because Mega Sharpedo, Marshadow, both physical attackers. Milotic's a special attacker, but it's not typically offensive, and Raichu is offensive, but not necessarily powerful on the special side. And whereas Gardevoir, on the other hand, it definitely is powerful on the special side. And on top of that is also a fairy type, which is something I kind of need for those dragon types, so that they don't just spam outrage in my face, because as you can see so far with my team, nothing resists outrage, honestly. So I needed a fairy type that can kind of discourage the abuse of outrage. So, and Gardevoir was the only pick I could get, because I think I wanted to draft Sylveon, but Sylveon was taken, unfortunately. And I think also I also wanted Comfey, but they took that as well, so I was just like, damn it. So the only other mon that I could have possibly picked was Gardevoir. I do not like Spritzy, so I did not want to go, or Aromatisse, so I did not go with that, obviously. So I decided to go with Gardevoir. Plus, like I said, I needed some very powerful attackers as well. So, and Mega Gardevoir, I just felt fit the bill there nicely. So what does Gardevoir have? Well, Gardevoir is a fairy type, like I said. Its speed is not the greatest, but it does have some decent tricks up its sleeve. It can run various sets. It has the trace ability, which allows me to scout abilities as well, which is really useful, especially when you're trying to collect some intel on the opponent's preparations and whatnot. So, and it has decent coverage as well. Like it has a relatively wide move pool, which and it can get Will-O-Wisp too, which is really good, because that can actually help neuter any physical attackers when they're trying to go at Mega Gardevoir with physical attacks, because Mega Gardevoir's physical defense stat is actually not the greatest. Actually, it's on par with Mega Sharpedo, actually. So yeah, but yeah, I think that's pretty much the reason why I got not Mega Gardevoir, just Gardevoir. Jeez, Sharpedo's my Mega, damn it. But yeah, so here's my 6th pick now. 6th pick is actually Registeel. Now both Gardevoir and Registeel, like Milotic, were all in RU, so that's why they're $10. I didn't even mention Raichu and Sharpedo, huh? Raichu's PU, therefore it's $1. Actually, no. Raichu's untiered, but untiered and PU are both basically $1 if you drop them. Mega Sharpedo was UU, so I had to pay $20 for that. And now Gardevoir and Registeel are both RU, so therefore they're $10. I think I already said that when I mentioned Milotic, but yeah. So why did I get Registeel? Because I obviously couldn't afford Skarmory, especially with the Marshadow pick. So I had to get another good steel type that can actually, you know, take hits very well. And unfortunately, they took Metagross, which was actually a mon that I actually wanted to try to use in draft format. But unfortunately, it was already taken. So, and I felt like that was the only other good mon that I could have gotten, honestly. And they also took Magnezone, which, you know, kind of made it so that I couldn't get Magnezone, because Magnezone would have been good for having an electrical type mon as well as a steel type, but unfortunately it was taken, so I had the only other option right here in Registeel. And it was quite expensive, especially given the amount that that I spent on Marshadow. But again, I needed this wall basically, and I think this is the only thing on my team that can get Stealth Rocks too, honestly. Well, actually no, that's not true. You're gonna find out later. But I did need a Rock Setter, which Registeel has, and this is a steel type too, so it can take hits really well, and it resists a lot of hits that normally would affect mons like Milotic or Sharpedo, such as X Scissors. It resists grass moves, it resists rock moves, like it resists a bunch of things. Oh, and it resists fairy type moves as well, which is really useful, especially because I have 2 mons weak to fairy. So yeah, I definitely needed a steel type mon to, you know, can take a bunch of hits very well, and Registeel just kind of does that well. It is kind of, Registeel can be scary if it sets up enough curses, honestly. It does have a decent move pool as well, and can run various moves, can set up rocks, and you know, it can do a decent amount of things, honestly. But I think I primarily want this for a wall more so than an offensive presence, so yeah, that's the reason why I picked it. And not to mention, it was the only thing I could have gotten, honestly, because there was no Metagross and no Magnezone, so, and no Skarmory, because I couldn't afford Skarmory. I think I wouldn't have been able to afford Magnezone either, honestly, though. Let's be real, because Magnezone's also OU, honestly, from what I understand. And, you know, like, I wouldn't have been able to afford it either. So this probably also has a lot to do with why I picked Registeel as well. It's just more so because I couldn't afford better steel types either. The only other one that I could have possibly afforded was probably Metagross, with that being in, I believe, RU. But unfortunately, that was taken, like I said. So I just didn't have a lot of options. So I just had to go with Registeel. So here's my 7th pick now. It's actually going to be Braviary. Now, Braviary is a mon that I've drafted several times in several draft leagues, and it rarely gets any appearances. But the thing is that, I don't know, I always see the potential in Braviary, even though, I mean, it's because it has things that I like, such as well, for one thing, it's a flying type, which I could really use the ground type immunity right now, given that a lot of my mons right now are not immune to ground types, and not to mention 2 of them are actually weak to it. So the reason why I got Braviary, well, it's just basically the same as every other time I've drafted Braviary. It hits hard and can set up, has defog, so that's a good hazard remover right there. And on top of that, it also has pivoting options, which is something that I kind of don't have much of right now. Like, the only thing I have that can pivot right now is Raichu and Braviary, so that could be pretty useful. And it also has Defiance, so once again, discouraging those Intimidate users from my Marshadow and Mega Sharpedo, obviously, which could really be useful. So, but other than that, I think that's the... Oh yeah, and on top of that, it's also $5 because it's an NU mon. So, can you believe Braviary is NU? I remember when this thing was RU back in ORAS, and now it's freaking NU. Like, damn, have times changed. But yeah, that's why I picked Braviary. And plus, Braviary just looks cool, honestly. I would like to have a mon that looks pretty damn nice, which can also do a lot of things. I just need to find the right situations, as always, to include them. But anyways, that's my 7th pick. My 8th pick here is going to be Mudsdale. Now, this is a PU mon, and it's $1. And the reason why I picked it was because I need more ground type or electrical immunities, actually. Not ground type immunities. More electrical type immunities, because obviously I have 2 mons that are weak to electrical moves, and everything else just takes it neutral. Actually, 3 mons weak to electrical moves, so I definitely need more electrical immunities. And Mudsdale was definitely one of them to fit the bill. I mean, I know that a lot of these freaking electrical type mons carry grass moves, but honestly, they're gonna get punished with a massive earthquake if they hit Mudsdale, honestly. Mudsdale is relatively bulky as well, which is one thing I like, and also really offensive, which is really useful for when you're trying to hit a bunch of things on opposing teams really hard for damage, obviously. And this thing also can get rocks as well, which is something I could really use. Other than that, I think that's pretty much the only other reason I got Mudsdale. Electrical immunities, decent coverage, some decent utility, and it was the cheapest thing I could get considering the Marshadow pick. So yeah. 9th pick is going to be Drampa. Now, this is a mon I have never actually used whatsoever in draft format. I mean, I never used Mudsdale either, honestly, but the reason why I picked Drampa was because picking Drampa would pretty much complete the Fairy Steel Dragon Core that a lot of people like to use or incorporate in their drafts to make their teams quote-unquote better or something. And Drampa does have some things going for it that kind of make it a little interesting, and that is that it's really powerful, like even more powerful on the special side than Gardevoir. It's a dragon type, and it's a normal type, which adds to the whole resisting or immunities to ghost types, so which is really something that I could use in order to avoid Marshadow you know, getting to have his way with the whole, you know, attacking things. But yeah, so that's why I got Drampa. It hits a lot of things really hard for damage, and it also has hazard removal, like it can defog as well. And I think also it has some decent coverage as well. Like it has a wide move pool actually for it being a dragon type and normal type as well. So yeah, and yeah, I think that was the only reason I got it, honestly. It just hits hard and has some decent moves as well at its disposal. But I've never actually used it, and honestly, I'm actually kind of curious as to how it's going to work out, honestly. It is a really slow mon. Both this and Mudsdale are like really slow mons, so something tells me that trying to get a mon with Trick Room is actually probably in order here. But At the moment, I don't seem to have the answer yet, but I don't know. We shall see. But this is the reason why I picked them. I just picked them because, you know, I couldn't really get anything else. Like, I couldn't get anything, like, I couldn't get Haxorus, for example, because I already wasted 20 on Mega Sharpedo. This is once again why I'm starting to second guess my Sharpedo choice, because I could have used this for probably a better Dragon or something, but I don't know. Maybe I could be missing out on something, or maybe I'm not understanding something that made me decide on Mega Sharpedo in the end anyway. But yeah, so that's Drampa for you. I think I was talking about some other stuff, honestly, wasn't I? But, you know, I'm terrible with this stuff anyway, so why is that surprising to you? And my last pick. Okay, so my last pick is actually going to be Electrode. Now, this is why I was so 50-50 on the Raichu pick in retrospect, was because, I mean, Electrode is also an electrical type, like Raichu, but there's some distinctive differences between the two. Raichu has Lightning Rod, which grants it the electrical immunity head-on, and can set up, and can knock off, and can attack both on the physical and special side. Electrode, on the other hand, cannot, but has some interesting moves in its arsenal that actually make it kind of useful, and it's also relatively fast too. Like, it's one of the fastest mons in the game right now, so that was another reason why I got it, because I just felt like I wanted more speed, because 125 base speed can still get outsped by mons like Crobat. It can get outsped by mons like Tapu Koko and mons like Jolteon. And I think Electro kind of handles these mons relatively decently, I feel. And not to mention can abuse Tapu Koko's electrical terrain if it happens to come around or something. And is there anything else? I don't know. Oh yeah, and also because I think this pick was also it just came down to the fact that there were some other picks that I was considering. In fact, I wanted Spiritomb, which was also $1, but unfortunately that was also taken. So yeah, a lot of my picks come from the fact that I just got sniped several times in this league, in this draft. So obviously my team is not perfect, and I'm gonna have to actually look at the draft board again to see if there's anything I could actually you know, trade off maybe and get something better or something. The way the team is right now, though, it doesn't look that terrible, but I feel like it could be lacking in some areas, and maybe it's over covering in other areas. Like, for example, I have 2 water types and then 2 electrical types. Like, I don't know, like maybe I could have slapped a grass type or a fire type in there. But speaking of fire types, I actually wanted Houndoom as well, but I actually just couldn't afford it because I already spent too much money. Again, the Marshadow pick just really made drafting other mons really difficult for me, man. But it is what it is. But now, with all that said, that's gonna be all 10 of the mons that I picked for the NGDL Season 4. And now all we gotta do now is see if we can actually do well with this team. I'm actually scared and actually feel like I might actually do badly, and I feel like all these picks have been pretty debatable, but that's kind of where I would like the feedback, you know. Like, what do you guys think of the draft, honestly? Did I make it pretty decently? Is there something that works well with each other or something? I don't know. I'm hoping, but if not, I mean, just let me know, obviously. But anyways, that's gonna be the whole draft for my, well, for the NGDL, obviously. I think I already said that. But yeah, thank you all for watching this draft analysis, and stay tuned for the battles when they come. I think week 1 is gonna come shortly. Depending on when this draft analysis goes up, it might come very soon or maybe later or something. But I'm hoping that it comes around, you know, the next day. So if not today, obviously. But yeah, week 1 is gonna be pretty much either right after this draft analysis or maybe sometime later afterwards. It's going to be very soon is what I'm trying to say. But anyways, enough of my talking. I'll catch you guys for the next video. For now, just take it easy and have a good one.